Coding Dojo is a programming school that turns beginners into developers in only 14 weeks. If you're serious about landing a career in tech but lack the formal education or background, Coding Dojo will get you there in no time. With over 3,000 graduates to date, over 90% of their grads land jobs within 3 months of graduating, often making over $70K per year at tech firms of all sizes, from companies like Google to local startups. To learn more, visit codingdojo.com or click the link in the description below.
Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. So, I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I was thinking about. Actually, I started thinking about when I did a coaching call with someone, helping them to learn quickly. I have a course out there. I'm sure that you've heard of it. If not, you can check it out. It's called 10 Steps to Learn Anything Quickly. And that course is basically a course that teaches you the techniques that I learned or taught myself, or developed over time in creating all the Pluralsight courses that I did. I did 55 Pluralsight courses in about 2.5 years. You can check out those as well. But it involved learning things really, really rapidly and being able to teach them coherently. And it was quite an intense period of time, but I had to develop a system for doing this because the traditional way of learning things, of going and reading books cover to cover and all this stuff, it doesn't really work, right? It takes too long. I mean, not that it doesn't work, but it takes too long, and it is just very, very inefficient. So one of the things that I think a lot of you struggle with, and this person that I had this coaching call with was struggling with, was they bought the course actually, and he was having trouble trying to implement that, right? Because he was approaching even the course itself as the traditional way of learning. And so what I want to do was give you an analogy, sort of a way to think, especially for those of you that are starting out in software development, or you're trying to get somewhere and you're trying to do everything right and you're trying to figure out how can you learn to become a software developer. That's a lot of you. Or you're learning to transition to another technology or something like that, and you're trying to go about things the right way, and you're trying to figure out what is the plan out there for me and how can I do this. And so, like I said, the course 10 Steps to Learn Anything Quickly, which you can check out or look in the description below. Watch this video first, don't go there yet, but anyway, you can check that out if you're interested. But the course itself gives you the techniques to learn rapidly, but if you don't have the right mindset on how to do this, then it's not going to be as useful to you, because it's not like you're just going to, again, and this is what I think some people buy this course, right? And this gentleman included, thinking that this is just going to be some kind of magical hack that all I have to do is watch this course and all of a sudden I'm going to be able to learn things quickly. I'm going to be like Neo from the Matrix. And that's not true. Anything that ever promises you in life that you're just going to like read this thing or this secret or watch this video and all of a sudden your brain is going to be downloaded with this information, it's going to be easy for you, is false, right? That doesn't happen. But the way that you change your mindset and the techniques that you learn can greatly leverage an existing frame of reference or existing mindset that is already in that direction. And I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but essentially what I'm saying is that you have to get the mindset right first, and then the tools, then the techniques will help you. But if you have the mindset wrong, it's not going to happen. So I want to tell you about something. So first of all, how do people learn incorrectly, or what is their plan? So again, this gentleman that I talked to, what he said was he had enrolled in, I think, this one long course. It was like a 2-year program, and he did some kind of boot camp, and he was watching a lot of video training tutorials, and he was just sort of like reading a lot of books, and he wanted to become a front-end developer. And in one of the courses that he had enrolled in, one of their philosophies, they said, hey, if you want to learn quickly, and if you just want to, you think you're going to spend 6 months and then you're going to become a developer, this isn't for you. We believe that learning is a long process, and it takes a long time and at your own pace, and this could take several years or so. And, that's fine. That's a good disclaimer. And I believe we should all be lifetime learners. We're always going to learn. I'm learning every day. I constantly read. I read several books a week. You can check out my book reviews here, my playlist here, just if you're curious. But my point is this, is that when you have that mindset, when you're trying to go somewhere, but you don't care how long it takes you to get there, you're probably not going to get there, at least not in any reasonable time. It's when you have you know where you're going to go. You have to know exactly where you're going to go, and you have a deadline. You have a specific time frame. You know you need to get there by this time, right? I mean, if I told you go to New York City, and I didn't give you any parameters of when you need to be there or how long it should take or anything like that, you might say, well, I eventually hope someday I can fulfill this quest of going to New York City. But if I said, you need to be to New York City in 2 weeks, give you a specific date, and you need to be at this hotel at this specific time, you're going to now have to plan exactly how you're going to do it. Buy the plane tickets, whatever, rent a car, whatever it is, book the hotel, you're going to have to actually set up a schedule and a plan to get there. So when you're learning, the biggest mistake that you can do, or one of the biggest mistakes, is to not have a specific goal in mind and a specific time, right, that you need to accomplish this. Now, we don't have a crystal ball. I don't have a crystal ball. We can't predict exactly the time, but I'll tell you what, self-fulfilling prophecy, if you set a deadline for something, if you set a time, 90% of the time, if you commit to that, you're gonna make it, right? I mean, this happens all the time. Now, it could be wrong, and but so what? If you fail and you gotta extend it a month, that's fine. But actually take the leap of faith and commit. So I want to give you a story. I told you to give you a story here, just kind of an analogy of something here. So I haven't skydived myself yet. I would like to do it someday. I probably will, but I have talked to a lot of people who have done some skydiving, and I'm familiar with the process, and I kind of looked into it when I was interested in doing it. And what I understand is that if you want to go skydiving, the first time that you go skydiving, you have to do what is called a tandem jump, which means that you jump with the instructor like you're strapped to their back. And the way that it works, right, is that essentially you go to the skydiving place, okay, in the morning, let's say, and they give you about a 2-hour tutorial. Like, they show you how the equipment works, how to pull the chute, how to pull the emergency chute, how you're supposed to, put your arms in the air and or whatever, right, and how to handle rolls. They give you a basic, like, 2-hour training, essentially, and then after that's done, they take you up in the plane, and you jump out of the fucking plane, right? And so, so the reason why I'm telling you this story is because imagine if, and think about this, right? When you get up in that fucking plane, okay, or think about it this way. When you go, if you're gonna go skydiving, okay, you're gonna jump out of a fucking plane, okay? If you go to that 2-hour session, right, to learn what you're supposed to do, are you going to be paying fucking attention? Are you going to learn what you need to know to get up in that plane and jump out, right, and to handle the situation? You bet you'll learn, right? There won't be any question about it, right? There's a deadline. There's a really serious deadline, because if you don't figure out the shit, if you're not paying attention, right, if you don't commit to learning it in that 2-hour time frame, when you jump out of that plane, you're gonna be fucked, right? So your brain says, hey, I better fucking learn this because I have to, right? And that's, see, the difference here is, let's say that we're going to go skydiving, and the skydiving company, they said, okay, here's what, I'll tell you what, John, I'm going to send you, here's a Dropbox folder. There's a bunch of videos in here, there's some books and stuff. You read through all this material and you kind of practice the exercises and whatever, and so you can learn kind of the basic stuff you need to know before you go skydiving. And when you're done and when you're ready, just call us and you can schedule an appointment to jump out of the fucking plane. How long would that take? I mean, how long are you gonna review the stuff, right? You might spend months reviewing the stuff. You're like, well, this is pretty serious stuff. I better make sure I have this down. So I'm gonna go through all these videos again, or I'm gonna learn it, right? And you might delay and procrastinate or whatever it is, right? Because you're not gonna feel like you're ready. When are you ready to jump out of a fucking plane? Well, I'll tell you when you're ready. When you only have 2 hours of training and they say, that's it, and now we're getting in the plane. And so you gotta do that with your life, with your learning. If you want to learn something, don't act like you have all the time in the world, okay? Don't act like it's just a process and, we're going to go to New York City when we get there. Don't act like that. Instead, act like you're going fucking skydiving, okay? It's happening later this afternoon. You have 2 hours to prepare and to go through this tutorial and this training. So pay fucking attention, learn what you need to learn, and then whether you learned it or not, you're jumping out of that plane. You see what I'm saying? That's how you need to approach your education and your learning. So if you're trying to become a developer, okay, the worst thing that you could possibly do in trying to learn a technology or become a developer, right, a lot of you out there, is that you can say, well, I'm just going to kind of start, like, I'm going to read some books here. Maybe I'll join a boot camp. Maybe I'll join some Udacity classes, or maybe I'll, like, do the Sing, and I'll start working on this programming language and whatnot. That's the traveling to New York City with an undetermined date and time that you have to get there. You're like, well, eventually I'll get there. It's like wandering around the United States, like you're starting in California, and you're like, I'm just going to kind of walk directions until I'm going to kind of head in the northeasternly direction, and hopefully eventually I'll end in New York City. And maybe you will, but it might take you fucking 50 years to get there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it depends on what path you go. So instead, what you need to do is avoid that trap. You don't want to be caught in that maze wandering around. You need to treat it like you're fucking skydiving. Like today at 5 o'clock, you're going to be jumping out of a plane. So what is the minimum that you need to learn in order to be prepared to do that, right? What can you fit into 2 hours in order to be able to do that? So if you want to be a developer, don't say, okay, whenever I get to it, or whenever I feel like, because you're never going to feel like you've learned enough, right? There's too much, it's changing, or you're never going to feel like, oh, I have enough, now I can go and apply for jobs. Instead, say, okay, 3 months, I have 3 months, okay? This is the kind of job I want. This is the technology I want to use, the technology stack. This is the kind of developer I want to be. What do I need to know? What do I need to learn in order to get there? So I'm going to take it seriously. You can buy my course on 10 Steps to Learn Anything Quickly, like I said, but you got to apply, you got to actually take the steps, and you actually got to say, okay, I'm actually going to do what John says, and I'm going to make a real plan. I'm going to have a real goal. I'm going to have my success criteria, and then I am going to take the steps, and I'm going to do what I'm going to come up with a learning plan of how I'm going to get there. And just like I said at the very beginning, if you're going to New York City and I give you a time and a date and a place you need to be, you're going to figure out the travel arrangements. You're going to figure out what flights you need to go. If you need to book a taxi to get to the airport, right? How are you going to get there in time to make it there? Same exact thing. If you set a 3-month deadline, you say, okay, at this point in time, I want to be a developer, or I want to be applying for jobs, right? And you're very specific on that time and date and exactly what it is, then you can work backward from there and set a plan and say, okay, well, it looks like I'm going to need to be studying this, and then I need to learn this, and you're just going to learn what you need to learn in order to accomplish that task. It's that when we're out there and we're thinking that we just need to learn a bunch of stuff and magically we'll be initiated by just going through, by learning various things that we think we need, that's when we never get there. But when you specifically say, and I'll tell you again, this came from my own experience of, I was literally, when I was churning out Pluralsight courses, I was literally taking something like a new programming language or a new framework or whatever it is, and I was literally spending a week learning that in order to get enough information to be able to spend another week designing a course on it and recording tutorials and pumping that out. In 2 weeks' time, I went from knowing nothing about a programming language to essentially being an expert on it, teaching a course on it at a beginner level, of course, right? Not at an advanced level. There's definitely a place for experience and whatnot. But what I'm saying is that in order to do that, I had to say, I didn't have the leisure of saying I can read 15 books. What do I need to know to teach the basics of this course? Like, my objective is I need to record and teach this course and design this course in 2 weeks. So I got 1 week, right? I'm working 15-hour days, granted, I'm a hard fucking worker, but I still have to narrow this down. I can't study everything and take a leisure. I have to say, what is required? What is the minimum that is required in order for me to reach my goal? What is the plan to get to New York City and to get to this hotel at this time? What airlines do I need to book? What taxis do I need to book? Right? What kind of things do I need to pack in my carry-on? Okay, that's how you have to approach your education, your life, any goal that you're trying to accomplish in life. You can't do the haphazard way, right? You gotta say specifically, I can only carry so much in my fucking carry-on. What am I putting in there? And so that's what I did. When I did those courses, I said, okay, what do I need to know? What is the minimum? What is the minimum? Now, let me get that information and let me go ahead and go forward. And you know what? It worked, right? I went forward, and sometimes I've made wrong decisions in life, and sometimes I've had to relearn things or whatever it is, but taking action and decisive, immediate action and putting deadlines and forcing yourself to go through and actually set real goals and to work towards those and to create deadlines for yourself is so critical. So I hope this helps you. Again, think about it. Anytime you're tempted to be leisurely and to just think, oh, I just have all the time in the world, or I'm just gonna, when I'm ready, your life is a skydive. I mean, you're essentially, like right now, you're living on fucking borrowed time, right? You understand what I'm saying? Like, you don't know when you're gonna go, you don't know what's gonna happen, or how your life circumstances are gonna change. You gotta take action, and you gotta do it fucking now. So make a plan, go for it, and pretend like you're gonna go skydiving later this evening. If you had to go skydiving, if you knew that your life was on the line, what would you do? You know, you would figure out what you need to learn in order to be able to accomplish that task, because it's coming, and you got to approach your career, your learning the exact same way. All right, if you have not subscribed already to this channel, make sure you click the subscribe button. I will be your guide along the way. I promise I will help you to succeed in what you're trying to do. Click the bell so you don't miss any videos. YouTube doesn't always show all the videos, even if you subscribe. Don't ask me why. And that's all I got for you today. Take care.